Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto nerds of all ages. Today, we have a guest. We're going to talk about governance. We're going to talk about stablecoins. We're going to talk about DeFi. The one, the only, the Guardian, Rylie, is here today. Stay tuned.
Now tuned in to the KryptoNurd podcast, brought to you by Citrus and Algo Fund. Be sure to like and subscribe.
All right, Rylie, thank you so much for stopping by the KryptoNurd Studio today. How have you been? It's been about 6 months, I think, since we did our last interview.
Yeah, I've been really good. Literally, we were celebrating the launch of V1 6 months ago, and then pretty much 2-3 weeks after that, we were like, it's time to work on a V2. And so now we're celebrating the launch of V2 together. It's finally up, and we're just really excited to be able to share a new set of products and features with the Algorand community.
I'd love it. Let's start there. Let's dive into what's new. What can the community look forward to? What improvements have you learned? From V1 to V2. What's going on?
Sure. So when we launched V1, right, we just gotten funded, right, but the product was a result of innovating, if you will, for Algorand and building for Algorand without funding. We were just totally bootstrapped for the most part and got a lot of support from our investors and, borderless and specific, right? And so that was the result of a much smaller team and building when there was no DeFi live, right? There's no YLDY yet. There's no,
a totally different landscape then. What a difference 6 months makes.
Right. When we were launching then, there was AlgoFi and Folks Finance and stuff. But when we first started building and we had this idea, right, that's when there was no stable coins, there's no DeFi. It was just, Algorand's moving really fast. And so it's great to be a part of that, right? But again, the big changes are we left a lot of opportunities on the table, right? Like we've made our UI a lot better. And so we're excited to have a platform that should be a lot more intuitive for users to use. We also, buffed up our product suite and made things a little bit easier for folks to get in and out of, right? Like we had some little things like partial repay that wasn't a possibility. And so folks would just have to like exit a position or add more collateral, right? Now you can still do those things, right? But you can also just do a partial repayment of what you've borrowed. So that's just, again, an oversight that makes a big difference. And then we've got some bigger things like new products that should add a lot of value, not only for the Algorand community, but also I think folks that aren't currently in the Algorand community are gonna see these different products and think, okay, I know what that is. I think a lot of Algorand DeFi is very sustainability focused, and our platform is absolutely focused on sustainability, right? But it's kind of like conservative when you compare it to other protocols, right? People are just building these very unsustainable protocols that are kind of like one-offs of some of the most famous protocols that have ever been launched, right? And so they just kind of try to suck as many people in, suck as much liquidity up, and do what they can to onboard a lot of people really quickly. And I think Algorand is a lot more of a let's get people on, let's make sure everything's sustainable, let's not rush to launch anything, right? And I think that's really important for the long term. Like that's why we're all here in Algorand, right?
Much more measured approach, I think, that just kind of keeps it even keel the whole way through.
Right. But that still doesn't mean we can't learn things from these other protocols that might not be as sustainable. And so from day one, we've been distributing ownership of the protocol, but one of the other things that people love with stablecoins is being able to stake them and get a yield, right? And so we figured out a way of being able to pay out protocol revenues to folks who actually have our stablecoin and stake it. And so that's just another feature that I think is going to get people really excited and add some value to GARD.
Okay, let me ask you: is there a flurry of activity regarding when governance comes around, right? Do you see like a huge spike in activity and interest and people asking more questions every time governance rolls in?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the other problems that one of our other products we aren't releasing it is that geared at trying to solve, and that we're going to be trying to solve in a multitude of different ways, is how do we keep people engaged the whole year? I definitely think that kind of the week before and the first week of governance, like every quarter dependably is very busy. The other time is during votes, right? When people are voting, I think a lot of people check back in, see what's new, see what's been going on. But right, that is kind of one of the current call to problem, right? Opportunities for growth in Algorand and growth in engagement is how do we make sure that folks keep coming back and engaging? And the way you do that is by adding an incentive, right? We have to incentivize this and make there be real opportunities. And so we're doing that with the V2, and we're definitely have some actually new ideas since even building out the new platform. And luckily, these are ideas we can add on that we think will actually get folks to keep coming back, in addition to these other products that we'll be releasing in the coming months. And
Exciting.
yeah,
Okay.
no, definitely an important question though, and something that I think everybody needs to work on.
One of the things that got me most intrigued with Algorand, not just intrigued, but really like engaged, is the level of collaboration between projects. We go to events like a Decipher or ETH Denver, or all of these, and some of them virtual. We get together in our AlgoFam weekly chats, and there's all these projects available that are interacting with each other. What does collaboration look like for you, for your team? Do you speak with some of the other, DeFi stablecoin platforms or providers? What are those discussions like? What do you do together, and what do you have friendly competition in, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing that's important to acknowledge right now is that anyone doing well right now means that there's more opportunity for everybody to do well. So if AlgoFi does well, Folks Finance does well, anybody else, it's bringing more people into Algorand and creating more opportunities. So I definitely think that that's something that's important to start off with saying. But we, I don't want to, speak out of turn, right? But I think we've really collaborated with pretty much everyone in one form or another. And I feel like we've done a really good job of just trying to get as many different folks involved and, share what we can. And, whether it's from our starting in that Algorand Miami accelerator, right back September-ish of last year, maybe it was October. I don't remember exactly.
Time flies.
Well,
Yeah.
right. I can't believe it's been about a year either way. But whether it's through all those companies that some are ones that people know about, some might not be, but Bendable was in that cohort, NeoMoon's in that cohort, Alchemon's in that cohort, right? And so we whether it's collaborating in that environment, whether it's been with different staking platforms we've now partnered with all three. So there's Cometa, AlgoStake, and YLDY, and so we started with AlgoStake. We Cometa's pretty new. We did a month with them to, try it out, bring some of our users over there, hopefully build some excitement. And now we've got, our YLDY partnership going on, which we're really excited about. YLDY has an amazing community. So, that's one way we've partnered with a lot of folks. Then in regard to the lending platforms that are not our platform that are live, we definitely speak with AlgoFi, and there's hopefully some stuff in the works there. And then Folks Finance, we definitely have with V2, we'll be launching G.algo as a form of collateral to borrow GARD with, and so that'll happen in our first week of being up. So by the time this interview's up, that might already be live.
Awesome! All right, we'll post this quickly.
Yeah, and then we'll be, GARD will be, something you can use as collateral and borrow against or borrow on Folks Finance as well. By the time they launch their V2, I know that's coming, so more excitement. Yeah, I could talk all day. I mean, we've really spoken with everyone, and one of the funny things is that even folks that I haven't spoken to initially for work reasons, or collaboration purposes, but I mean in the community, whether it's like we've spoken about different things, and I know you through KryptoNurd, but now you're just such a pillar, I guess, with all these different things you've got going on. It's really awesome to hear about. And there's other stories like that too. Like I try to support NFT projects, and I met literally in the last week the founder of Alandia, which is a great platform. I met him just doing a deal.
Yeah.
So there's lots of opportunity, and I really feel like spoken to almost everybody, and tried to figure out where those synergies are and where we can work together.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, being where you're at now, GARD could be used in anybody's system really. Everybody doesn't need their own ASA. In a lot of cases, it makes sense to have a stable coin that is already serviced and has an audience and easily accessible and makes sense. So like I could see like an Allandia, using that to as their lending protocol or lending, fund currency, what have you, could make total sense. And lots of projects are like that. So it's good to see out and about and kind of having those collaborations. I'm intrigued with the folks finance, the GALGO GARD exchange. When that starts, is there any kind of uncomfortableness when speaking to competitors, or how do those conversations start?
Well, like I said, I don't really view any other protocols as competitors right now because, again, like I said, folks finance doing well, AlgoFi doing well. It's all good for us, and at least folks finance. Like, let's just talk about one platform, right? Sure, we both want to offer solutions that make participating in governance more easy, but if somebody, I still think our value proposition for governance is the best, and we can chat about that more later. We've got plenty of time, but when we talk about if they, from an Algorand's perspective of making Algorand better, boosting TVL, etc. If folks want to use their platform, participate in governance, even though that means they don't get to vote, etc., the same way that you would typically or on our platform, get their GALGO and bring it over to us, then this user still participating in governance, getting that boost. If folks finance happens to have any other incentives, I don't know if this quarter they do, then those could get thrown in there, and then bring the GALGO over to us, mint some GARD, and then between our staking and other incentives that we'll have live, you get the best of both worlds, right? And that counts for Algorand TVL in multiple places now. And
I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of synergies with folks finance. So I don't view them as competitors. And the same thing like with AlgoFi, right? They're again another lending platform, and they obviously have their stable and now stable 2, right? They're working on their stable coin, and obviously there's some competition there, but I think that the kind of user who wants to use stable is going to choose that, and the type of user who wants very transparent over collateralized stablecoin is going to come over and use GARD. And I think there's value adds for both, right? And regardless, if you can use GARD on their platform, it helps us out, it helps them out, adds value. And I'm really hoping that down the road they tokenize their V algo, because again, I'd love to take V algo. And again, you want to put your algo in the vault over there and do whatever it is on AlgoFi you want to do, right? And then come over to GARD, deposit your V algo, and then come use our platform too, right? So I think there's definitely right now, like everybody's just people on our team that we want to help support, figure out where we can add value. And again, if Algorand does well, then it means there's more opportunity for everybody else in Algorand to do well, because there's really
rising tides float all ships, right? I think that's good. Can we talk a little bit about the process, not just the process, but really like the benefits of minting GARD? So a user comes in, talk to us about the voting differences, because I think that's important. And then also some of those incentives. I know one in particular is live now, and you've got a few others. You may or may not be at liberty to kind of share those additional incentives kind of heading down the road, but maybe you can give us just a little bit of a sneak peek.
Yeah, absolutely. So the switch to V2 really enables us to have a lot more features that we can bring out right now and in the future that add value for our users. But when we talk about voting, which has been something that I would say we've had the leg up on since we launched, is we let users vote on behalf of their actual assets, right? We're not throwing users' assets into some kind of a pool. We're not locking them up in a specific way. Users, when they use our platform, they still have custody over their assets, right? What happens is they, historically the whole time it's been algos, right? So they take their algos and they deposit them into a smart contract account, right? So I'm sure lots of people know about smart contracts. Essentially, those are just have code on a regular Algorand account, right? That's one way of being able to think about it. And so what happens is you deposit your algos into this other account that only you have custody over. You're the one who controls it. Can mint GARD from that account if you want. You can pay the GARD back. You can vote. You can do all these different things, right? You're the one in charge. And what's really important about that is that adds some levels of safety, some levels of autonomy. And it also just means that at the end of the day, like you have your algos. Like obviously algos are fungible, right? It's not the same as Bitcoin or some of these other chains where like you could actually have like a, you know, a bad coin, if you will, right? It's not the same. But you know, everyone here, especially this early, I believe, is a big believer in Algorand and doesn't want to have that chance that someone else is ending up with their algos. And we're really the only platform that means put your algos into the smart contract. They're still your algos, right? You know, you get to vote on them. And with other platforms, it doesn't work out exactly that way. And so I think that's a really big value add and something that people will care more about with time. I think is you know, time passes and people.
There are a lot of folks who are, if they're paying attention, they may not want to delegate their votes, right? They may not want to lump them in together and just say, okay, we're going to vote with the foundation. They may want some autonomy, and I personally, I like that as a key feature. So that's a highlight for me. And can we talk about the incentives? I know everybody's wondering, okay, what kind of incentives are there? If we switch over, yeah, okay, the vote's cool, but what other incentives are there?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Something that we've been doing since day one, and also a point of confusion for folks, is that we have a token called our GARDian token, right? And it's something that we launched to, again, make the protocol have the best chance of succeeding long term. And so what the GARDian token does is, both with our V1 and our V2, it allows us to distribute ownership of the protocol, right? The GARDian token is this loyalty token that can be exchanged for our DAO token once we have token generation for that. But in the meantime, it means we can distribute ownership of the protocol without letting people vote, because both versions of the protocol, the V1, which we're discontinuing service for, and V2 have voting built in, right? So what that means is that where protocol revenues get sent, how protocol fees are determined, which account actually gets to update different parts of the protocol as well. All that's controlled via our DAO. And so again, I think I don't want to say this for, again, this thing I can't say with 100% certainty, but I'm pretty sure we were the first protocol to launch with like on-chain governance possible, right? We didn't have any votes, but again, it was theoretically possible with V1, and it's certainly possible with V2. And so again, I think that's an important distinction as well, right? These platforms that we put out are really built with this idea of decentralizing them, distributing ownership. And so one of the things people get for participating is they'll get ownership in the protocol, right? But the bigger incentives, and the thing that we're going to be really spearheading this quarter, is our new product that we're launching is staking. And so we're going to be boosting staking significantly with a grant we've gotten from the foundation, right? So staking will pay out rewards sustainably in perpetuity, right? Regardless of if the foundation is stepping in, because we're going to be able to distribute our protocol revenues, right? We're not diluting anything. We're not creating something out of nothing. We're putting our actual revenues into these staking contracts to pay out users who want to stake their GARD. So whether you've borrowed GARD and you want to stake, or you've bought it, or you've received it and you want to stake, you can get protocol revenues. But we'll be deploying at least 5,000 GARD a week into the staking contract, perhaps much more, to really boost the staking reward, right? And so at least for this whole quarter, there should be a really great incentive to come stake. And we've got a cap that we've put in place for now of about 10K per week, but depending on demand, we really want to target that rate to be above 10%. And so again, if not many folks are staking, that 5,000 GARD per week could be astronomically high in regard to an APR. But we're hoping that really brings a lot of folks over, and then the more people who stake, we'll certainly consider going above that 10K as well. But definitely a really great incentive to start staking this quarter. And I think that, again, governance is really important, but with composability that we'll be launching again with Folks Finance, and we can chat more about that as well. Maybe you have these G algos lying around because you participated in governance, and now you're like, well, what do I do the rest of the quarter, right? Bring your G algos over, mint some GARD, stake the GARD, right? So we're going to be trying to, even if it's not governance enrollment, we think there's a really high value proposition for folks to still borrow more GARD, participate in the ecosystem, mint some GARD, stake it natively, or maybe put it as liquidity on a DEX. Like, we're really thinking about how do we boost that velocity behind GARD, and how do we get more in circulation so that there's more value for anybody who's holding on to it.
You really want to put together that flywheel effect, right? The more it's used, the faster it spins, the more users you collect, and then it's really self-sustaining at that point in time. I'm curious, what do you see of significant value in the DAO structure? We hear that tossed around a lot, and it's kind of been kind of a buzzword, and everybody's like, "Oh, we want to put this in a DAO." But I think you have a little more thought process behind it, because it's you just lean yourself into having some purpose there. What's your idea behind that DAO process?
Sure. Well, again, I think not everything needs to be a DAO, right? There's been themes in crypto, right? I really think real world use cases and adoption is going to be our next one. But we've had DAOs, we've had DeFi, we've had VR, right? We've had all these different kind of themes that have been really exciting for different amounts of times, and led to some ecosystems really just permanently being a part of crypto for now, right? But DAOs are really exciting, and why DAO is important for a protocol like ours is, again, like many people say, there's really no true decentralization right now, as much as we like to say things are decentralized or as much as we want them to be.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we can't still work toward that. And so what a DAO allows us to do is, again, as we distribute ownership of the protocol, as we educate people about what's good about the protocol, like what we envision for it long term, and we get more people kind of to understand why the protocol is valuable, why having a decentralized monetary system is valuable, right? And again, we got to do things so incrementally, right? Like right now, we just have to mint the first 10 million GARD, right? Like that's kind of one of our goals, is mint the
That's
first
a
10
milestone.
million.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a big one.
We're nowhere close to that right now. I think that could change, right? But there's so many goals, but to become really like a truly decentralized monetary system, right? That's so far off, right? And to get there, we really do need to have lots of people participating, lots of people chiming in and adding value with their opinions. And you can't have the founding team in charge forever, right? Like, I don't want to be in charge forever, right? I think, even if, you told me in 10 years, GARD was going to be the decentralized monetary policy of the world because all fiat's, oh no, sorry. Sorry, someone's calling me. All of fiat's collapsed. I thought my computer was turning off or something, but
You're still there. You're still good.
yeah, but anyway, if you tell me all of fiat's collapsed, right? Let me get a drink.
That's nice.
Yeah. You tell me all of fiat's collapsed, right? And things are looking a lot different than they are right now. I would still not want to be in charge of GARD. I think that it needs to be something that a lot more people have a say in, a lot more people can participate in, and that's something that should be run by the people, right? Again, like some of the main reasons why we have issues right now with modern monetary theory is not enough people are weighing in, right? And the people who are weighing in most likely don't have the best interests of everybody else in mind. And like one of the many things we've built into this V2 for a multitude of reasons is that we don't always think we're going to be pegged to the dollar, and we don't have to be, right? So we can still be an over collateralized store of value that is not dollar related, right? And so whether you want to talk about regulatory hurdles, whether you want to talk about dollar milkshake theory and what happens after the dollar even isn't worth anything, right?
Yeah.
We could have a Satoshi standard. We could have maybe the algo is super important. We could be like a tenth of an algo, right? There's so many different things that we could peg ourselves to, and again, that's something that depending on where we're at, the DAO could help decide, right? So I think that being able to, in the context of our platform, set the rates at which people borrow at, distribute where revenues go, see who's in charge of actually updating parts of the contracts, whether that's like the commit to governance contract. Like there's little things that do have to be updated over time, right? And being able to decide who does those things, like it shouldn't always be, the founding team that's doing that, right? Like there's theoretically a time where we might not know what's best, right? There might be somebody else who's better suited to come in and take care of things. So I think it's important to acknowledge that and to be open to it when the time comes.
Good. Let's talk about the team for a second. We don't often talk about our own internal teams when we come on these interview shows. I do it too when I go to events. We talk about external, like our customers, our clients, collaborations. But I imagine the last year has been, you've had trials and tribulations for the team as well as you've grown and changed, and the project has pivoted a few different times, right? You've added some features there that weren't maybe on the original roadmap. How has that impacted your team, its growth? How big do you think the team will get? Do you ever envision having a larger team, or will this decentralization kind of keep you as a small and sort of like a SEAL Team 6 of protocols?
Yeah, so it's hard to talk about a team, right? Because I think anyone, no matter what kind of business is right now, you have contractors, right? That could look very different depending on the protocol, right? But you have to have lawyers that help you out. You have to have maybe a designer help you out. Like there's lots of things that you get external help with. And so without counting them, just talking about our internal team, right? Even though some people who are external still feel pretty internal, right?
Yeah.
I definitely think that if things are going well, we definitely have to expand, right? I mean, there's no way that we can offer everything and scale the way we want to scale and all of that without more team members, right? Scalability is super important, not only in blockchain but business, right? And there's something a lot more we want to do, and then there's limiting reagents to that, right? Like we need to figure out how we keep a runway for a long time, right? Especially in a market like this.
Yeah.
How do we make sure that we protect the balance sheet and figure out where priorities overlap and things like that. So definitely want to scale. I definitely think there's opportunities to make some really great additional hires, right? I think that right now we really do have like the bases covered, right? Like, I mean, if we 100x or something, we definitely need more people, right? But I think in regard to being able to communicate, develop, make products that work, I think we're at a good place. But again, adding team members really does change the role of different people on the team, though, because again, whether we're talking about me or a developer, anyone, when you start to have to communicate what you want to have done instead of doing it yourself, and make sure that you articulate things in a way that people understand, so they know, okay, like this is what you want from me, this is what needs to get built. It takes time and learning, and it's every team's different, right? Like I've been a part of different teams in my life, not only in the work structure. I've been an athlete my whole life, really, and so I definitely feel like I have experience with that. But it's everyone's different, and being able to work together is important. And so I think scalability is huge, but also making sure that each step of the way. That you really get to know the people, and like kind of, again, like when you think about traditional, like if you were going to graduate college and do that traditional route, like you're going up the ladder. But if you're building a company, you're building the ladder below you in a sense. And so
different perspective.
Yeah, but you really have to make sure that each step is connected, and that you know what everybody needs. And I think at least from the founding team, like we all really know our strengths and where we need help, right? And so that's why we work together so well. And so I think really that's the job, right? Is figuring out, okay, like this is the type of people we have, this is where the strengths are, and then how can we bring in other people that really complement folks where they might not be as strong, right? And so I think we've done a good job at that. I think that the initial starting point, we all really complement each other really well, and that's why we've been able to build something for Algorand and have some staying power. But the talent's everything, and I certainly am so appreciative to not only the Algorand community, but specifically our team that's done everything, right? I mean, I couldn't tell them enough, but I try to be appreciative, and I certainly should be even more so. I mean, it's
nice to give the team a shout out in a public interview. So good. hopefully they watch this and realize that you appreciate them.
Hopefully they know already, but you're just making me think. Like I try to make that clear, but you're making me think. I'm like, oh man, I gotta do even more, because no, it's great. They're really great. And again, just these are all people that in work. I mean, everybody, I don't know anybody who doesn't have to work, but I guess they're out there, right? But those are the people you spend so much time with. And so another great thing about, again, getting to build a team is you get to kind of see what those personalities are like, and if you think it's going to match up, and if you do a good job, it does match up. And so again, I definitely feel really lucky to have gotten to know some of the folks that I'm working with now, and have just lots of time spent collaborating on something that's interesting, hopefully adding a lot of value to the Algorand community, later maybe the world. And definitely a great situation to be in.
Well, fantastic. Rylie, you are always so well spoken. I appreciate having you on. I've got one more question for you. And then I believe I might have cut you off earlier. Something about algo. Maybe it was GAlgo possibly. Anyway, if there's anything you want to wrap up with, I'll give you that opportunity. But my last question here for you, sort of on the record, is when was that aha moment for you? The biggest pivot, or it might just be when you had the initial idea. But in the last year and a half or so, like when was that biggest aha moment where something just clicked and it made the biggest difference for you?
I feel like we've had to pivot a lot. So, and I feel like that's one of my strengths that I've brought to the team is being able to see what the problem is, and then be like, okay, again, in any business, right, sunk costs are stuff you have to just forget about. And in crypto in particular, where money spends really quickly, money comes really quickly, and where a month is a year, right? Just everything's so different. But I think the biggest moment was a long time ago, like 2 summers ago now, which is just when it was realizing we can build a stablecoin platform that you earn interest on intrinsically, and that's through that Algorand governance system, right? Where we can basically do liquid governance for Algorand. And again, I've been in crypto for a while, but liquid governance is somewhat of a new thing, and figuring out how to be like, we were the first ones who said we're going to do this for Algorand, right? So I said that was a big aha moment. That's what brought us into Algorand. And along the way, I think adding through talking to folks, adding a DAO token, that added a lot of value, right? I think that when we launched V1 and we were like, okay, this might have been great if it launched 6 months ago, but now all of a sudden the competition's also stepped up its game, right? And realizing, now we have to be GARD in the context of a DeFi ecosystem, not just the only game in town, right? I think that was a big moment when, instead of saying, okay, what, we launched V1, we're just going to stick behind it for months and months and see what we can do.
Yeah, you couldn't coast.
I was pretty much me like, all right, everyone, like, we'll take a couple weeks. I mean, we didn't stop working, especially not the communication side of the team, because that was, we got to get everybody on board. But, I was pretty much basically immediately, we got to pivot. So I think with V2, it's not going to be a pivot. It's going to be, okay, we're here. Like, now we can, start doing some other things. But I definitely feel like there's been more than one. And I definitely, when you say aha moment, I really do remember, calling David one night at like 11 p.m. It was just like during the week of the summer, and being like,
what if we did this?
Yeah, this is where the value comes from, right? Because read other white papers and, figuring all this stuff out. But when I had that kind of thought, it was like, okay, here we go. Like now we're getting somewhere. And so that was definitely a fun moment for sure that, I won't forget.
Awesome. Well, I can tell you from experience and having lots of conversations, great ideas or those aha moments come frequently, more often than we even realize. People have great ideas. They call friends, they call relatives, they write it down, they make promises to themselves, but they don't follow through. So kudos to you for being the person that took that great idea, that aha moment, had the follow through to make it a reality, and then didn't sit and coast, as we said, after V1, because you couldn't. You have that innate spark to like, okay, what do we need to do to keep propelling forward, to to collaborate, to innovate, and to still be relevant in the Algorand ecosystem. So I think that's fantastic. Was there anything else that I forgot to ask you about that we should have touched on that you want to get out here today? Now's your opportunity.
Well, I just want to add on to that and say, when I was younger, right, people always talk about $1 million idea. And, definitely through this whole process, realizing that there's no such thing, because nobody's going to pay you just for an idea, right? Nobody's going to, okay, you have an idea, so what, right? Like, everybody has an idea. And so that's definitely something that I feel like if anybody is like watching and is like, I want to start something, or like, what's that first step? It's actually doing something, right? You can't just have a great idea. And that's something that I definitely had a big misconception about, right? I just thought I'm gonna have such a great idea one day that someone's gonna be like, here's a check, like it's done. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I mean, again, that's the part of being naive, right? Again, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about when I was a kid, right? I mean, obviously that notion has changed, but still going through that process of learning that it's all about the execution. It's all about um, making people believe that you can execute, and getting folks behind your vision. That's where the value add is, right? Because again, you can have the best idea ever, but if you can't make it happen, then what does it matter, right? You just had an idea, so what? So
Yeah.
um, I definitely think that that's something that I wish I'd learned sooner, and I
I agree.
definitely I think it's good that you highlight that. I think it's been a great interview. I think we've covered a lot. Maybe I'll watch it back, whenever it comes out. I'm like, oh man, we missed one opportunity, but I feel
Just
like
add
we've
it in the
covered.
comments, or just tell me we need to do this again, and we'll get a part 2 in there. So I'm always open. So I'm glad you messaged me and said, hey, it's been a long time. Let's reconnect. I would love to have you on for V3 or that 10 millionth minting or whatever project is on next, or if it's just a random Tuesday. Rylie, give me a call. We'll hop on and we'll record some stuff, and the Algo fam will watch it, and we'll get some thoughts out there.
Yeah, that sounds really good, and I hope everyone just gets on guard and gives us a shot this quarter, because I think every quarter there's been a good reason, and I think this one there's a great reason. That's having that staking live, and everyone should just give it a shot, leave us some feedback, join our groups, and like I've been saying, like right now, the more everyone succeeds in Algorand, the better off we'll all be. And so just like I like literally use every DeFi protocol, I hope that folks who are in DeFi and Algorand do consider, just using every protocol. And that goes to our users, right? If you're only using Guard, I know there are some people that only use Guard. Um, Give the other ones a shot too. I want the outcome that's best for everybody. And sometimes that just means that you're along for the ride, right? You're just there to push everybody else. Doesn't mean we'll be successful, but it's still very important. And I really want the best for Algorand and the best for our community.
Very noble. Real quick before we go, when is your weekly Twitter space?
Sure. So we do that Wednesdays, and we bumped it to 1 p.m. because we wanted to make sure that the West Coast could chime in. So 1 p.m. Eastern time, to be more specific. So every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we do chat. And so again, I like to come to the Algo fam chats every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we do our guard space there. And again, as Algorand keeps growing, we always let people show their projects. We let literally anybody come talk. So I definitely sure, it's sponsored by Gard, right? And I'm there and accessible, and love when people ask about Gard, but also happy to just chat about general Algorand stuff or support another project that might want some, engagement somehow.
Fantastic. All right. Well, as I said earlier, it's always a pleasure to have you. Everyone out there, I appreciate you watching. Tune in next time. And as always, I am your crypto nerd.